This is Carrie Johnson with the Iowa Department of Management, and this is a brief webinar to give an overview on the county budgeting process for fiscal year 22. It'll have some general reminders about county budgets, property tax limits, that sort of thing, as well as reminders regarding the new legislation that went into effect in 2019 that changed the fiscal year 21 budget process. That is still in play for fiscal year 22. And we'll also give an overview of the online budgeting system, which users will find is very similar to how it operated in fiscal 21. So first, we'll go over some general budget information. Keep in mind, though, with the Department of Management site, the place to go for counties that are working on different items with Department of Management is dom.iowa.gov/counties, and we call this our county resource page. It has lots of the different links that you might need to access. So the role of Department of Management is to provide the forms that are used to submit budgets. And this includes web-based forms. We provide instructions, and we also provide technical assistance to all the local government budgets, budgeting folks as they work through their process. So we'll provide an overview now of the property tax rates and limits that counties operate under. 331.301 provides for general powers and limitations and indicates that a county shall not levy a tax unless specifically authorized by a state statute. So that's an important general principle to keep in mind, that taxes, the only taxes, property taxes that are available to a county are those that are specifically authorized in statute. As far as the categories of property tax levies, counties have general county services, rural county services, debt service, and then other taxes specifically provided by law. For example, a levy for mental health and disability services and a narrow levy for unified law enforcement districts. So if we talk about our basic property tax levies, there are some rate maximums for basic levies, and our general basic levy rate limit is $3.50 per $1,000 of taxable value, and this is intended for services primarily for residents, all residents of a county, and it does include secondary road services, but excludes services specifically financed by other statutory funds. The rural county services basic levy, rural basic levy, is $3.95 per $1,000 of taxable value, and this is intended for services for those persons that reside in the county outside of incorporated areas. Again, this includes secondary road services, but excludes services financed by other statutory funds. So we said that the general basic is $3.50 and the rural basic is $3.95. There are provisions that would allow a county to exceed those rate limits, but only for reasons set forth in 331.426. Those reasons include unusual increase in population, natural disaster or other emergency, unusual problems related to major functions provided by state law, required by state law, unusual staffing problems, unusual need for additional monies to permit continuance of a program, which provides substantial benefits to county residents, reduced or unusually low growth rate in the property tax base of the county. So you could exceed potentially that $3.50 or $3.95 in one of two ways. You can hold a special levy election, or you can include additional information with the notice of public hearing on the county budget. If you want to review the statutory provisions regarding these options, you'd look at 331.425 and 331.426. And if you've never exceeded those basic rate limits and you're looking to see if this is an option for you, I would suggest consulting with your county attorney prior to pursuing. So we talked about our general basic and our rural basic levies. There also are supplemental property tax levies. These are limited in purpose, but not in amount, so they're not a rate limited levy. 331.424.1 talks about a supplemental levy for general county services, so it would be applied to the full value of the county. And 331.424.2 is a supplemental levy for rural county services, which would be applied to the rural valuation. In order to use either of these supplemental property tax levies, the general or rural basic levy must be at its limit before you can access that supplemental levy. Counties, of course, have a levy available for mental health and disability services. To determine the fiscal year 2022 county maximum, counties would multiply their regional per capita amount by their population, and the population used is most recently available population estimate from the census. So in order to sort of determine what the max is by county, you'd look at your region, what's the regional per capita amount, and multiply it by the population estimate for your county. We do provide for you in the budget instructions a calculation that would demonstrate this for you. It's found at the end of your county budget instructions, the last few pages. This is based, keep in mind, on the most recent membership list of the regions. If there's been any official changes that include a new published 28E agreement for the region, so the region has officially changed members and revised its 28E, please let me know so we can reflect those changes in the budget instructions. Also, please note the county can enter a lower number than the maximum that's determined by the county and the region. You work that out locally, but you cannot exceed the statutory maximum by county. Counties have available to them a debt service levy. It is available to pay certain judgments, the interest and principal on general obligation debt, certain payments under lease or lease purchase agreement, and the lease cost of a joint city-county building. Debt service is not limited it's not rate limited, but it is limited to provide only the levy needed to service your outstanding debt that can be paid by general obligation debt service. Counties have available a cemetery levy. This is 0.0675 per $1,000 of taxable value to maintain certain cemeteries under the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors, including pioneer cemeteries. This is levied and accounted for within the general fund. It does have a separate line on your budget, but it is handled and managed within your general. About 20 counties typically in a year use this levy. Emergency services levy: if a county provides fire protection to a township, under 331.385, the county can establish an emergency services fund and certify taxes in the township not to exceed the levy limits in 359.43. And this currently only applies in Polk County. Essentially, they are levying this process for the townships. Unified Law Enforcement Levy. This is found under Code of Iowa, Chapter 28E. The county levy is only on property outside of incorporated areas and is limited to $1.50 per $1,000 of taxable value. And a vote of the people is required to establish this levy. You'd look at 28E22. Flood and erosion control. This is a optional levy to be levied only against ag land values. It's limited to 0.0675 per $1,000 of taxable value. And if you're questioning that levy, you'd want to look at 161E.9 of the code. It's not been used in recent memory by any counties. There is also an emergency medical services levy to be used up to 5 years as approved at an election, and a vote of the people is required to establish this levy. You'd find more information under Code of Iowa, Chapter 422D. If you're looking for general information about county budgeting, again, you could go to our county resource page. And if you're curious what other counties have levied in the past for different rates or total dollar amounts, you can access this county tax rate list. It lists for each year, including the current year, the different levies and tax rates that are being used for all the different counties. And this is kind of what it looks like. So each and every county listed, all the different rates, and some total levy amounts are also included. We also do provide a county budget summary found on the same county resource page. County budget summaries provide a just exactly what it says, a budget summary looking at expenditures by class, revenue by type for each and every county for that budget year. In addition, if you're looking for older budgets and AFRs, from this county resource page, you can find a link to the old local government reporting system that we used to use, and that's where you'd find, going back several years, old annual financial reports and budgets. So anything fiscal year 20 and older for budgets, and fiscal year 18 and older for annual financial reports would be found there. Fiscal year 21 budgets and fiscal year 19 annual financial reports and newer will be found on our new reporting system. And this is just a brief look at what that county budget summary looks like. It is an Excel spreadsheet, so if you're interested in, pulling some comparisons and crunching numbers, you can access that data there. So let's take a minute to review the general budget timelines. County auditors certify valuations to Department of Managements and all levy authorities by January 1. Of course, that value is used to calculate the tax rates within your budget. County departments submit proposed expenditures and revenue by January 15th. The board files the proposed budget with the auditor, allowing enough time for the budget to be lawfully published and certified by January 20th. A new sort of insertion to the process that was new for fiscal 21 budgets are the requirements per Senate File 634. So there is a notice that's required of proposed tax asking. We call it the max levy notice, is typically how we refer to it. And that needs to be published and posted like normal, but also listed on applicable social media websites not less than 10, no more than 20 days prior to the date of a public hearing on the proposed tax asking. The hearing is held and residents of the county can provide their objections to or arguments in favor of the tax asking. And then your board adopts the tax asking by resolution. If the tax asking increases from the current year by more than 2%, a 2/3 vote is required to pass the resolution. And then afterwards, the resolution is posted on the county website for perpetuity. Then you've gotten past that first initial public hearing and publication that's required to set your tax asking. Now you sort of move into the regular part of the budget process as it has been. So after that first step in the process, the max levy process has been completed, you would then move on to the regular notice of public hearing for your proposed budget. That's also published not less than 10, no more than 20 days before the date of the hearing. You hold the hearing so people can provide their objections or arguments in favor of the budget. The board adopts the budget by resolution. The board directs the auditor to certify and file by March 31st. Citizens have until April 10th to file a budget protest. County auditors then certify the county budget as well as all the other local government budgets after they've been filed. DOM certifies property tax rates back to county auditors by June 15th. The county auditor provides a tax list to the county treasurer by June 30th. Keep in mind that the budget submission deadline for cities and counties is now March 31st. So that would be a Wednesday in March of 2021. Late budgets, taxes certified by county whose budget is certified after March 31st shall be limited to the prior year's budget amount. This penalty may be waived by the Director of Department of Management if the county demonstrates to the satisfaction of the director that the deadline was missed because of circumstances beyond the control of the county. So if you're in a situation where there are certain circumstances operating within your county that you feel may jeopardize your ability to certify your budget by March 31st, please contact me and I will share with you the process to request a budget amendment or a budget extension if applicable. And I will work with you through that process to get your request to the Director of Department of Management for their review. Budget protests. Budget protest deadline is now April 10th to accommodate that March 31st budget deadline. So there's also a requirement now for your hearing notice to include information on how to protest the budget. And what we did here at DOM is we just added that language to the hearing notice for you. So there's a couple of lines regarding how to protest the budget, that's available to citizens, and where to go for more information. Protesting a budget generally is covered under Code of Iowa 2427. So persons affected by the proposed budget, expenditure, or tax can appeal the budget by filing a petition with a county auditor. So citizens can gather a petition, gather signatures, and file protest to your budget. Again, that has to be accomplished by April 10th. They'd file it with the county auditor's office. The number of signatures required is generally based on a calculation regarding who voted for governor at the last election, but protested county budgets require at least 100 signatures. So assuming the protest document is filed and meets the requirement for signatures, your county auditor would then forward the protest document to the State Appeal Board. The State Appeal Board is a 3-member body with the Director of Department of Management, the State Treasurer, and the State Auditor. They would schedule a local public hearing, and they would send hearing officers or staff out to gather information, to hold that hearing, to gather any sort of supporting documents from the protesters and from the entity that's being protested. And they would bring that information back to the State Appeal Board. The State Appeal Board would review it and render a decision on the protest, whether it be to hold the budget as it's been adopted or make revisions. The board must appropriate by resolution the amounts deemed necessary for each of the different county officers and departments during the ensuing fiscal year after that budget is adopted. Without an appropriation, expenditures aren't authorized, so this step does need to be taken. There's not any specification regarding the level of detail in that appropriation. A reminder, it is unlawful for a county official to authorize an expenditure larger than the amount that's been appropriated. Budget amendments. A budget amendment is required for any increase in the totals for any one of the 10 major classes of expenditures that you see on your budget summary. So public safety and legal services, physical health and social services, mental health, intellectual disability and developmental disability, county environment and education, roads and transportation, governmental services to residents, administration, non-program current, long-term debt service, and capital projects. So you do need to ensure that the amendment is effective before any of these expenditure amounts are exceeded. And budget amendments require the same notice and hearing procedures as required for the adoption of the original budget. So you do need to provide not less than 10, no more than 20 days prior notice for that budget amendment. You hold your public hearing, and then after which your board would approve the budget amendment. They are subject to protest like the regular budget. Keep in mind too, when you're thinking about timing, that an amendment of a budget after May 31st that's protested, but there's not enough time to hold that local protest hearing, is void. So you can technically amend at any time during that current fiscal year, but if you get really late, like you're into June and you amend and then someone protests, there's just not going to be time for a local hearing and the State Appeal Board process, so your amendment would be void. And the budget amendment process, just to be clear, has not been impacted by that 2019 legislation. The amendment form is found by logging into the same online system you use to adopt your budget and selecting amend on your current year budget. So this is new. Previously, you used an old Excel spreadsheet to complete budget amendments. Now we've built that into our online system. And if you're doing an amendment for the first time in the system, you might want to take a moment to review our amendment process. I did record a brief webinar that's viewable on your county resources page. Also, if you are amending, once you get into the amendment itself, you can access instructions within the form. Increases or decreases in departmental appropriations don't require a budget amendment as long as none of those 10 classes of expenditures are exceeded. But changes in departmental appropriations may be provided by resolution. And any increases will have to be offset by decreases in another department, so individual expenditure classes are not exceeded. If you have a situation where there's a decrease in appropriation for an office or department of more than 10% or 5,000, whichever is greater, those are not effective until the board holds a public hearing on that proposed decrease. They would need to, again, publish notice of the hearing not less than 10 no more than 20 days prior to the hearing in all of the county newspapers as required. So I'm going to go over the changes that were put in place. This was put in place for fiscal year 21, so folks have went through this once, but I do want to provide a reminder of the changes that were put into place by Senate File 634. Again, it was passed in the 2019 session, and it was an attempt to further notify public about property tax increases. It only impacts city and county budgets. It requires an additional public notice, additional public hearing, and a resolution that happens at the get-go before you do your regular budget process. This must have a separate not less than 10, no more than 20-day notice period. There's requirements that certain pieces of information be shown on the notice and in the resolution. Requires the notice be posted to the county social media and websites, and requires a resolution to be posted on the county website. So when we talk about what's covered as far as your levies by 634, for the county it covers your general basic and general supplemental and your rural basic plus your rural supplemental. And there is required information on the hearing notice, basically 3 columns of data, with the first column being your certified tax rate and requested dollars for certain specified levies for the current year. So general basic, general supplemental, rural basic, rural supplemental. What are the rates and what are the tax asking in the current year? Column 2 would be taking your rate and requested dollars as they would be for the budget year if the requested tax dollars were not increased from what they are in the current year. So budget year, it's the next year. If we kept our requested dollars the same as they are in the current year, not ask for any more dollars in property tax, but we look at what the valuation is in this budget year, what would our tax rate be? And then column 3 is what you're proposing for your budget year property tax rate and requested dollars. So this is basically what it looks like. As I mentioned, the system is going to populate for you this first column. It's just pulling from your current year budget. It's also going to then, once your valuations are filed, it'll populate the valuations in the budget year, pull over these same dollars, and then recalculate what the rate would be. Same tax asking, but with a different value, what would your rate be? And then this last column is where you're going to indicate in the blue cells are what you can enter into. You're going to indicate in the blue cells what you would like to request for the tax dollars. And then it will calculate for you in this last column a proposed percentage change. After the hearing, a resolution must be adopted approving the maximum tax dollars that may be assessed for the specified levies during the fiscal year. If this amount is more than 102% than the current year, then the resolution must be passed by 2/3 vote of the governing body. And I think about 1/3 of the counties have 5 supervisors, so that would be a 4/5 vote. For obviously any of those 3-member boards, that would be a regular 2 out of 3 vote. The adopted resolution must be posted on the city county website and social media accounts if they have them. And the resolution itself should include the following: a statement indicating that the publication posting requirements of the bill were met, a statement indicating the date of the public hearing, a not to exceed statement for both general and rural county services maximum property tax dollars. And this is dollars, not rate. You can include the rate information if you find it helpful, but what is required is that you're referencing the property tax dollars. Property tax dollars includes utility replacement tax dollar requested. An indication if the dollars requested results in a greater than 102% increase request for either general or rural county services or both. An ability to indicate the vote of each member. So this is needed to ensure compliance with that requirement of the 2/3 vote when the percentage increase is greater than 102%. And we do recommend, when you're looking at this resolution, consulting with your county attorney on any specifics regarding your particular county. There is an example found in the budget instructions for counties back towards the back. And so you can use this example or build off of it to maybe reference what you would like it to see in your particular county. But this does include kind of the basic minimums. And again, with general county services and rural county services, you are listing the property tax dollars here. That's what's required. So at that point, you published notice, you had your hearing on your maximum levy request. Your board approved the resolution to set that maximum levy request. Now, at this point, the county proceeds with the regular budget process as they have in the past. Hold a public hearing with notice published or published not less than 10, no more than 20 days from the hearing date. And again, the regular hearing notice includes that language regarding how to protest a budget. You must complete that Senate File 634 notice, public hearing, and resolution adoption prior to setting the date for your regular public hearing. So that has to be completed. Then you can set the date for your hearing. You can approve less property tax dollars in your max levy resolution than you published in the notice, but not more. In the adopted budget, you can ask for less property tax dollars than you approved via the max levy resolution, but you can't ask for more. So we'll take a few moments to review what the online budget system looks like, and is the same system for valuations, budgets, and AFRs, and also now amending budgets. Your login access should transfer from previous work that you've done. If you do have someone that needs access that currently doesn't have it, let me know, and I can get them set up. The county auditor, when you log in as a county auditor role, you see pretty much everything. You'll see valuations, you'll see annual financial reports, you'll see county budgets, you'll see on your dashboard on that sort of main page, all the budgets in your county other than schools. It's all sort of listed there for you. If you use the tab key during data entry, it does move between the cells in which you can enter data. You can also use the arrow keys side to side and up and down to sort of navigate through the budget. Ending fund balances are produced by subtracting the sum of all expenditures from the sum of beginning balances plus revenues. As you move within a page, a cell you are in is highlighted, and the row and column shows a green highlight just to sort of help you find your way as you're entering data. So again, when you're ready to work within the system, you'd go to the county resource page on the Department of Management website, dom.iowa.gov/counties, and you'd select the blue button titled Submit Valuations, Budget, and AFR. It's going to require you to use your Enterprise ANA login to get into the system. And if you do have someone that doesn't have an Enterprise ANA account but needs that to access the system, just send me an email and I can send you out instructions regarding that. Again, if you're a county auditor or delegated auditor, you're going to see valuations, all the budgets in your county, annual financial reports. A budget submitter who may just be the individual in the county that does the budget, or maybe they do the budget and the annual financial report, they'll only see those pieces and not the valuation and all that other additional information. So if you log in and you select budgets, you're going to see the current year budget because that was completed within this online system, and you'll see the fiscal 22 budget. For the current year budget, you can edit to get into the budget. What it would let you do at that point is simply just print the budget, or you can amend from there. You can also use the icon here to amend the current year budget. You can then, if you're ready to work in the fiscal 22 budget, you edit to enter the budget. And the budgets at the top are tabs across the different pages of the budget are tabs across the top of the screen. The regular budget hearing notice is the hearing budget adoption tab, and the maximum property tax levy notice required by Senate File 634 is the max levy notice tab. And that's what you're going to do first, of course. Budget summary is the proposed budget summary tab, and etc. If you're a county that needs to exceed the general basic or rural basic levy limits that we talked about earlier, you would need to complete the exceed general or exceed rural tabs. If not, you can ignore those tabs and move on past them. So you're going to enter your revenue and expense detail on the supplemental detail pages, and the data on the supplemental detail pages is automatically totaled and brought forward to your proposed and adopted budget summaries. And so you'll see as you look at, say, the budget summary page, everything is pretty much white cells. That means it's either a calculated field or it's pulling from another source. Blue cells are the cells that you can enter. And this is what your regular notice of public hearing looks like. Again, mostly white cells. Once that 2020 valuations are filed in your county, the fiscal year 22 valuation figures that you need to complete the max levy form and your regular property tax form will be populated with those values as needed. Until values are filed, and if your county auditor finds that they need to make adjustments to those values and they go in and unfile your valuations, so both of those instances, valuations not filed yet or valuations being edited, you're going to see that your valuations are in unfiled status. You'll see this notice at the top of your budget form. So that's just alerting you to the fact that, the valuations, if they're in there, are not necessarily the final value because your county auditor is working on them at this time. Once your valuations are filed, then of course you will no longer see that icon. Once they are filed, then the value pulls into the max levy sheet, as I mentioned, also pulls into your regular property tax page. And that allows you to enter data into the blue cells, and it will calculate then for you your tax rates. Long-term debt schedule, again, this is where you would enter any long-term debt that is outstanding. And what will happen with this sheet is it will do the calculation for you and pull over onto the property tax page your anticipated debt service levy that's needed to service these debts. Revenues detail, you're going to enter that again here on the Revenues Detail tab. It looks pretty much similar to what it's been in the past. Service Area 1, all the different service area tabs look similar to the current year budget, the fiscal year 21 budget, how it looked. Reminder, when you're working in your budget forms, you're going to be reporting 3 years of data, your actual 2020 from your annual financial report, re-estimated 21, and obviously your proposed budget. And this is what those the exceed general and exceed rule forms look like. If those are applicable to your county, they will need to be completed. Otherwise, they can be ignored. If you want to include electronic virtual information on your notice, there is a text box on the bottom of the public hearing tab to add this information. I will tell you that the location field on your hearing notice is quite big, so you may be able to fit everything you need there, but there is an option at the bottom of the notice to add anything additional you might need to add. Once you're in the budget, you can check errors at any time, save often, obviously, and you can print at any time. You can print the full budget at any time, but upon proposing your budget for publication, then you can also print just the publication notice if that's applicable to you. In Google Chrome, you can select your local printer or save to PDF as your destination. So you can print off a hard copy, or if you choose, you can save off a PDF version onto your machine. So if we look at the max levy tab, per the requirements of the legislation, your first tax is always going to be to complete that max levy tab. You have to do this no matter what your intentions are with property tax asking. Keep it the same, go down, 2% increase, doesn't matter. Everyone has to do it. You will note again that the first column has been populated for you using your previously filed current year data. Upon completion of that max levy form, you can select the button at the top that indicates max levy proposed. And that's going to then generate a hearing notice for you to use to publish in the paper and on any applicable online sites. You need to enter, of course, the hearing date, time, and place, and that will populate on the notice itself. The system generates the notice. And again, as a reminder, you can print it or you can save it off to PDF. You can enter data in the supplementary pages of the budget forms at any time. Well, once the system's open, but you have to complete the max levy process prior to proposing the entire budget. The system actually won't let you. You cannot propose or publish the regular budget notice until that max levy notice has been proposed. So just kind of keep that in mind. That proposed publish button for the regular budget is grayed out until the max levy process has been completed. Once you have proposed the max levy notice, you'll see proposed publish. For the regular hearing notice will be blue, and then that means it's available. Of course, you have to check your errors. It will not let you publish your budget and obtain that hearing notice without looking at your errors and making sure that those are cleared. Once you have no errors, you'll see the following green icon, and you can proceed and publish and post your budget to get that hearing notice. Again, you hit propose publish. It's going to have you enter time, date, and place for your regular budget hearing. And similar to the max levy, the system is going to generate a notice that you can print or save. If you're exceeding the general basic and rural basic, you have to publish those notices as well. If not, those pages are ignored and you don't need to print them. You can also access the public hearing notice at any time after proposing by going to print at the top right. So following the public hearing, the board can make any allowable revisions, decreasing tax asking or decreasing expenditures. Those are the allowable revisions that you can make. And you do that by returning to draft, which essentially just opens up the budget for making edits and changes. So you make those changes if applicable, and then you would propose publish again. You, in these cases, are not changing the public hearing date. You would leave the original publication date the same unless for some reason you did have to republish because of a publication error or something of that nature. So then once you are through that process, you would be ready to adopt. Select adopt, and you'd enter your adoption date and your resolution number and click adopt. You do need to, of course, file the documents with the county auditor by March 31st. You would file the proof of publication for the max levy notice, your approved max levy resolution, the proof of publication for your regular budget notice, and the assigned, adopted, and supplementary pages, and also that budget resolution. If you have any questions as you work through the budget process, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.